pond drain into the next swale, and so you can grow fish, you can have birds, you can do whatever kind of aquaculture thing you might want to do, and the water gets progressively purer as it goes down, and you can eventually turn it. You might want to turn it into something that could be potable. There's this technique called ferro cement. You can dig a hole. You add basically it's rust to concrete, which kind of makes that concrete less doesn't bleed quite as much. There's a recipe to it, and you just put it on a metal barrier. But it's an easy, cheap way for like $500. You create a giant water cistern, and if that giant water cistern is under the ground, it won't freeze in the wintertime, and you can have a direct line to your house that can feed your house water. And there might be contamination because you got bacteria because you are using rainwater and exposed dirt. So you boil the water you want to drink, or you use a water filter for that stuff, and you can still bathe in this stuff, and then the gray water can then be purified downhill from your house. And so there are all sorts of different interesting ways for managing gray water, for managing potable water, all without needing the state, all without needing like water run to your house. Electricity, solar is a very modular system. If you're spending time trying to save your energy bills, turning off those lights, doing energy efficient stuff, then you're practicing for when you have solar panels and you don't have that much electricity. And it's modular. As you get more money, you can keep adding to it. Add more batteries, add more solar panels, and just keep building that system up. And there is a maintenance cost. The batteries have a limited life, but as you build up,
have a limited life too.
The panels though have a pretty long life, anywhere from 20 to 30 years. That's like a long running thing. The battery's only 5 years, or 8 years at the outset. And then you can even refresh them. I'm not sure how this works exactly, but you can like take out some of the water and add some sulfuric acid and like refresh the battery and reuse. Some people actually make money doing that, refreshing some of these old lead acid batteries.
How cost efficient are solar panels and batteries today?
In terms of on-grid, it's not efficient. So the time horizon for ROI, return on investment, is like 20 years because there's so much upfront costs. So you do save money 20 years from now, but most businesses wouldn't consider that a worthwhile investment. But what does it give you? It gives you mobility. It gives you ability to save money on your land because you don't need to be next to land that has power lines. So you're not saving the money on the solar panels. You're saving the money on what the solar panels give you, which is the ability to go off-grid, the ability to not maybe be noticed by other people, to be able the freedom to like build houses that maybe aren't according to building regs, this kind of thing. That's what
I made a little solar water heater for my pool, which is probably good in the third world, but I just took a 300-foot roll of sprinkler pipe, did it in the sun, and I think it ended up being about a 7-foot little frame.
Yeah.
And just, when it was real hot, I could coil it out flat and zip tied it. And put it on my roof, and it heats my pool. So.
Oh, sweet, yeah.
I think it'd be good for the third world because it's really cheap, and you can actually buy that pipe that doesn't break down in the sun.
Yeah.
I just, use the regular one that they had in stock, but it adds a couple degrees to it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But like in the third world where they have everything's on their roof and it's hot, like in Mexico, that would be like a perfect water heater for a warmer climate.
Some people will take a 50-gallon drum, they'll paint it black, they'll put it up on their roof, and then the sun just hits that black barrel, it warms up that water, and then they have it watered in their house. Some people, actually a compost pile, if it's 1 cubic yard in size, and it's got the right mix of nitrogen and carbonaceous material, the inside of that pile will get to 160 degrees for like 2 or 3 months. So you can put a garden hose in here, or maybe some copper tubing for better heat transmission, and then that heats up that copper tubing, and you can have hot water in the wintertime off compost, because it's hot inside there. Yeah. Stephen Harris has it's so much more efficient to actually collect heat off the sun than it is for solar panels and generate like electricity. Stephen Harris has a thing where he puts some of that free glass on top of like a black kiddie pool, or he spray paints the kiddie pool black, and then he uses that like a hot water heater. It's the sun, the glass keeps the water, the heat from leaving the water, and by painting it black, it just absorbs it, and that creates like a thermal mass that can be then used for all sorts of hot water applications. You could put a tank that's not pressurized next to your rocket mass heater barrel. Don't pressurize, boom, squish, boom, hot water and pressure is bad, but an unpressurized hot water system where it's just exposed to the pressure of the air, you could have a radiant heat against like a flat tank, and that could be heating some of your house, and you can just pump that hot water out.
Take that NSF sprinkler pipe, I bet if you did like 2 of those things, it would probably give you enough hot water to take a shower.
Yeah.
Pressurized on your roof like that.
Yeah, okay.
Only took me, I did it by myself for about 3 hours.
And then you don't do it. Then you don't have to have the expense of like a $400 hot water heater every couple of years, or every 8 or 12 years, depending on how it goes. So So here's my recipe for Liberty Pie. Anyone liking this at all?
Yeah, it's really interesting.
All right. So I want to take all these strategies and I want to like double plus fund them. I want to say like, okay, I want to do all this stuff, but I want to do it with everybody else. And that's the next strategy that for me that ties it all together is intentional community. I want to like have land and build my shack and build my house with other people, and I want to like share internet connections and share cooking meals and this kind of thing. And like we can all save money together, and we can all be free together. We can get away from all these systems that we don't need and live our lives however we want to do. And a lot of intentional communities have a lot of interesting ways of like balancing. Like I want to be away from the state and away from control, but I also like stuff in the city. So like maybe they'll buy a cheap house in the city. It'll be like a weekend house. People will sign up. It'll be like a timeshare that the entire community shares. Or maybe the community finds a cheap boat, and if you like boating, they can timeshare the boat or something like that. There's all sorts of strategies when people are together and they all share the same kind of values and interests to make all sorts of win-win cooperative scenarios. And I like this idea of like I don't have to cook. I only cook once a week for everybody, and then that saves me time that I'd be cooking for myself all the time. By having a community house, you can have the Midwest Peace and Liberty Fest all year round. Like how sweet would it be to have this all the time, 365. To me, I'm excited about this possibility. I like the idea that we could have a little slice of this, a little more permanent, and it would enhance my autonomy and liberty and choice by being around all sorts of people giving me ideas and supporting me in my quest, in my pursuit of these values. So yeah, you get the power of community. So like if the state is oppressing you, if there's one person, you have all these people around you saying, hey, I'm taping you. You've got that support, you've got that security. If you're just one family by yourself in the woods, maybe you're a little bit less secure. Maybe it's a little bit easier for the local government to intimidate you. When you've got a community of 20 families that all show up to a town hall meeting and be like, we don't like what you're doing, like that might put a little more pressure on the institution to maybe leave you alone. Buying in bulk as a community, you know what I mean? If you have a community and you're all living together, buying like a 500-pound quantity of some kind of food staple or something maybe makes sense to have this giant pantry, or splitting it up into individual houses. By building community, we're not so isolated. Like so often, right, we're internet warriors. I mean, I don't know about you. I don't know how you guys are doing things, but yeah, to get my Liberty connection and my Liberty community, I gotta go online, and then but I can't hug somebody online. I can't say, oh, I'll pat you on the back. There's a little bit, especially if you're all those ugly Facebook internet battles, people arguing over stuff online. Like, when you got the keyboard, and like none of your personality comes through, and like it's harder to see people's humanity on visual text and the picture caption. I think that putting people together and just being real and authentic. Just makes a beautiful system where maybe some of these internet battles don't happen. Like, oh yeah, you're cool. I don't believe a thing you say, Dylan, but I like you.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a beer. It's all good.
I like the internet.
Yeah, so a lot of intentional communities, they try to do things by consensus. So there are ways of having group decisions that are that are consistent with our values for autonomy and choice. And one of those systems is consensus decision making. It's kind of a thing where we all get together, we all try to make a plan, and it's really hard to come to unanimity. But if one person has a big problem with the plan, they say, I don't like this plan. And we're like, oh, okay, one person doesn't like the plan. Let's fix the plan. Rather than having to roll over and be like a be like a mini state over people. Let's fix this. How could we make this plan work so that it would work for you? And this kind of thing. So there's the process of consensus, building a consensus, so that no one has to lose, that no one has to sacrifice their needs to make the community happen. The community supports the individual, and the individual support the community. Yeah, and get by with a little bit of help from your friends. Social support. If you are having a problem in your life, having that close community, it's almost like bringing back the Liberty Tribe. I see this potential community strategy as something like that. It's like we kind of got somehow separated from our tribe. We're all kind of lost. We're trying to find each other online because we're finding oh, there are these people that share my values, that I like to share their company. And I'm trying to find my tribe online. And I'm saying, like, wouldn't it be great if we could bring this tribe together in real places, you know, in real community. And that's pretty much what I want to share. This is my recipe for Liberty Pie, and your recipe may vary. Your ingredients will probably be different. But I invite you to try some things, experiment around. Let me know what's working for you, so that like I can, you know, we can all share this together. Because I think it's like the synergy of ideas, of people like trying different things, finding out what works, what doesn't work, and kind of like this cooperative social building of like how do we get that like that liftoff velocity, that critical velocity where we can escape the gravitation of the state and finally find freedom in an unfree world. And thank you so much. Question?